Ha! Mhm. Good vibe soul. Imagine a world where everyone loves their neighbor the way they love themselves. Wouldn't that be a good vibes world? Lack of dishonesty among humans, peaceful and no chaos at all, my friend. That is what we are advocating for here. Myself, I'm Y311H. This one is a potato. Normally, it is sweet and good vibes. I don't know where you come from, if potatoes are this small or how do they taste. You can tell us in the comment section. Now, my friend, the video is not about the potato. The video is about spreading love, peace, honesty, and forgiveness. As we react together to extremely good vibes videos that you, my friend, are gonna enjoy. So click that like button, watch till the end, and join us on spreading good vibes. Now, my friend, for the love that I have for you, I would like to share something with you here before we dive in. Yeah, soon I'll share with you one of these bunnies, but today, let me share with you some words from the book of wisdom. This is what it says. On the contrary, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him something to drink. In doing this, he will heap burning coals on his head. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. That is from Romans 12:20 going down. Wonderful words, my friend. God is love, and love is good vibes. Let's give thanks to our Creator before we dive in, my friends. You see, let's humble ourselves. Thank you, Father, for this wonderful day. Thank you for your kindness and goodness, Father. Thank you for creating our souls, dear Lord, and giving us this chance today to spread love to the whole world. Guide us through as we react to these videos, Father. Guide our intentions, Father, and fill us with your spirit. Intervene in our lives also, dear Lord, and guide us through. In Jesus' mighty name, we do pray, trusting and believing. Amen. Good web source. Let's watch till the end. Much love.
I'm not sure if you know this or not, but the term gross pay is called gross pay because it's actually disgusting to see how much money you would have made before taxes.
I like fun facts, but I love unfun facts. They're the intellectual equivalent of that woman tasting kombucha for the first time. Number one, there probably weren't many tumbleweeds in the Old West. The Russian thistle, aka the wind witch, aka the tumbleweed, probably didn't arrive until the late 1870s and didn't propagate nearly fast enough to be all over the Old West. So that moment where the good gun boy and the bad gun boy meet on a dusty street to decide who's the best gun boy by having a gun off, and then a tumbleweed rolls by, probably didn't happen. Number two, Monopoly is supposed to suck. It was designed to suck. It was originally based on a game called the Landlord's Game, which was designed to show people what a nightmare landlords are for society. The designer, Elizabeth Maggie, designed a game where the goal was to screw the other players, destroy the housing stock, and make everybody sad, and the Parker brothers saw that and were like, we should make families do this at Christmas. Number three, YouTube exists because one guy was mad he couldn't see enough celebrity nips. You've probably heard that Facebook was originally designed by Mark Zuckerberg as a way for him to compare the women at his college to pigs, but it turns out YouTube has almost the same origin story. It was originally a dating site that was basically Hot or Not, but with video. But then that Super Bowl halftime kerfuffle happened where Justin Timberlake ripped off Janet Jackson's shirt, and for some reason it hurt her career and not his. And the founders of YouTube were like, hey, I want to see the video of that. And they were mad that they couldn't. So they pivoted their terrible dating website into a user-uploaded video website. Basically, if you collected all of the people who started major websites to make the world better together in one room, you would have an empty room and a single tumbleweed would roll by.
You may not have the self-awareness to figure this out, so I'm going to tell you, because I didn't have the self-awareness to figure this out until I'm like, almost 28 in a couple months. You have been avoiding hard things your entire life, but you still feel anxious, and this is why. Your mind is meant to overcome hard things. It doesn't just get better under pressure. It's literally created to overcome pressure. So if you keep putting off hard things like moving states when you know you should, or taking the job promotion even though it requires a different skill set, or approaching a relationship or whatever it is, or a hobby or a skill that you've been putting off, what your mind does, it doesn't just relax because it needs to overcome pressure. It'll create hardship that you need to overcome but it'll be over really stupid shit. Like, what color should I paint my house? Or what mechanic should I take my car to, so that it has something to accomplish. And that is like the least rewarding thing ever. So go try something hard.
Okay, I have a crazy story time for you about how I just found out 2 days ago that the guy that I thought was my biological dad for 51 years is not, because of a DNA test that I took for Ancestry, because I wanted to see how Jewish I am, because my mom's Jewish, and I just wanted to see, little did I know that it was going to reveal it's not even a family secret, because my mom didn't even know. Like, this is a shock to all of us. So let me start from the beginning. So my mom got pregnant when she was 17 from her boyfriend, Victor Whitehead, and she got pregnant, and he said, should we get married? And she's like, well, if I wasn't pregnant, would you ask me to marry you? And he said, well, no. She's like, well, then no. So after I was born, he sees me, I look just like him. He's like, oh, wow, I didn't know it was going to be this hard, it's crazy. And my mom's like, okay, well, the only thing I'm asking is when she wants to meet you, that you'll be willing to meet her. And he's like, sure. Mom's like, okay, cool. So she raises me. And when I'm 4, she meets my dad that raised me, Frank. And he's my dad. He's the one that raised me and all of that. So when I was 12, I decided I do want to meet my biological dad, So we drove her about 6 hours away, and we knock on his door, and his wife had no idea. And there was this little boy and little girl there. And I'm like, oh, that's my brother and sister, And she storms off, slams the door. And by the time we leave, she comes out and she's like, if you want to get pizza next time you're in town, we'll do that. I'm like, okay, cool. So we leave, and I tell my dad that raised me, Frank, I'm like, you'll always be my real dad. I just wanted to meet him, and I was good with that. Well, fast forward to 1997, my dad, Frank, passed away, and sad story. And my mom is still devastated to this day, because he was the love of her life and all of that. So fast forward again, 4 years ago, when I was like, I'm going to look up Victor Whitehead. I'm going to look him up. So I look him up, and it says possible family member. So I call this girl, and I'm like, is Victor Whitehead your dad? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, well, I think that I'm your sister. And she's like, oh my gosh, we've been looking for you. I'm like, you've been looking for me? She's like, yeah, my other sister, give her a call. I'm like, wow, okay. So I knew there was a little boy and little girl, but I'm like, who's this other girl? So I call her name's Tara, and she's like, oh my gosh, we thought we'd never find you. I'm like, you thought you'd never find me? I burst into tears. I'm like, what? People have been looking for me? What? And so she tells me the story of how Victor's parents, like, he got my mom pregnant, and his parents sent him away to Montana, and he got another girl pregnant. And that's her mom. So we're like 3 months apart. And so I get all this intel, and she's telling me about my dad, and he had passed away, and it was a sad story. And I'm bawling this whole time, like everything. I'm like, oh my gosh, he died in a fire, and this is terrible. And like all these things. And she tells me all about Victor and his family. And we go over there, and we meet her and my other brother and sister. And the past 4 years, we've been building a relationship with these 4 people, or 3 people. And we're 4 siblings. And we look just like each other. We have pictures side by side. Like, oh yeah, family, obvious, So then I take this DNA test, and it comes back. And when I tell you, I'm oblivious because I get the test results back, and I'm not Native at all. And Victor Whitehead, he's Native, right? And talk about his Native culture and stuff. And I'm like 1% Native. I'm like, well, that's interesting. I guess I just didn't get part of that gene, And, but I am 28% Jewish, and that's what I really wanted to know. And Tara's like, well, why didn't you match with me? Cause she's all over the, Ancestry. She's got it all figured out. But she's like, why didn't you match with me? I'm like, I don't know. That's weird. Maybe it just didn't click yet. It's not clicking at all. It's because we have it's not clicking. And so yesterday, Saturday, she messages me 2 days ago. She messages me, and this is the day after I got my test results. And she's like, yeah, so I was doing some digging. She texts me. I was doing some digging, and on your paternal side, you have this cousin. And I'm like, my paternal side? We both have the same paternal side. What are you talking about? And she's like, And a cousin, she explains it to me like I'm dumb. And a cousin is when the parents are siblings. And I'm like, what are you trying to say? And she's like, I think you might be a Gleason. You might be this, you might be somebody else. I'm like, so I call my mom and I'm like, Mom, is there any possibility that Victor's not my dad? And she's like, well, yeah, there was this one time before I was with him, but she was 17 and young. She didn't really know. She thought, okay, I'm with this guy. I got pregnant. He's the dad. Like, she didn't even think, but there was this one time with this other guy before she met him. And I'm like, Mom, that isn't my biological dad. She's like, no way. And so she's tripping. I'm tripping. And in the meantime, Tara is messaging somebody that was on her friend's Facebook that was like supposed to be my cousin. By the time this all rolls around to Mom giving me the name, to me giving it to her giving it to her, that's her dad. So she's talking to my sister. And now she just broke the news to her. And I'm like, I don't even know if I would have told anybody I just did this for 4 years. I just built a relationship with strangers that I thought were siblings. Like, now I've got a dad who's still alive and freaking out that he has some child he doesn't know about. And so then I'm like, well, can I take it from here? I'm going to message her and the sister. And then she's crying. She's all upset. She couldn't sleep the night before. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a disaster. And I'm just like, I don't even know if I would have ever reached out because this is crazy. So I'll keep you posted.
All of you wearing your trousers on your hips, come to the front of the class. Let us learn how to wear your trousers, or the proper way to wear your trousers. Wearing high-rise trousers on your natural waist lengthens your leg line and gives you the illusion of height, especially if you're a shorter gentleman. The second thing I want to focus on is the mechanics of wearing high-rise trousers versus low-rise trousers. Now, I turn to my side. When you wear your trousers on your hips, when you bend over or when you sit down, you run the risk of exposing yourself or exposing your derriere. Not a very flattering look, gentlemen. However, when you wear your trousers on your natural waist, your entire hip structure is enveloped in the trouser. It is entirely enveloped in the trouser such that when you bend over or when you squat down or sit down, you sit into the trouser. You sit into the trouser. It is very comfortable. You're not constricted. Whereas with low-rise trousers, when you sit down, not only do you expose yourself, but also it is very uncomfortable on the hips because you have your belt or your trouser waistband pressing into your hips. So I hope that's very, very clear. Wanted to keep this short and sweet. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Prof.
Hey guys, it's officially water glassing day. If you don't know what that means we're going to take farm fresh eggs and put them in our long-term food storage. So to my gallon-sized jar every day for the last few weeks, I've just been adding the eggs that I collect from our chicken coop. And these eggs have to be unwashed and unrefrigerated. So if they're dirty, they don't go in the jar. Now that our jar is full, we're going to actually water glass them. The ratio of water to pickling lime that you need is 1 ounce of pickling lime per every 1 quart of water. My jar will hold about 2 quarts of water, so I need 2 ounces of pickling lime or a 1/4 cup. Mix that up really good, and then you're going to pour it into your mason jar, making sure that every single egg is fully submerged. Then I'm going to go ahead and wipe down my rim so it's good and dry, put the lid on, and I'm going to put a date on there, and these eggs will stay fresh for up to 2 years.
First words to use in your resume. First one, my friends, is
Simpson's paradox teaches us that we can misinterpret data if we're not careful. Here's an example. A study examined 700 patients that had received one of 2 types of treatments for kidney stones. Let's call the treatments Method A and Method B. Method B showed a higher success rate in the group as a whole. Then the 700 people were sorted into 2 groups, people with small kidney stones and large kidney stones. Method A showed a higher success rate in both of these smaller groups. These results might seem contradictory at first, but they're not. Can you figure out how this is possible?
Wireless charging might never be the same because scientists in Korea have invented transparent solar cell technology that could allow smartphones and cars to self-charge just so long as your screen or car windows are exposed to sunlight. And I wanted to show you a better picture of this technology so you can see it a little bit more dynamically. You can see how they put the glass over the phone screen. There's a charging cable. This is very much so in its prototype workaround phase. And they're not the only ones doing this. I'm going to kind of go down to the article and reference. There were researchers at Tohoku University Graduate School of Engineering and also a team at MIT exploring transparent solar cells. Now, the MIT team built this guy right here, which looks almost like one of those solar chargers on an old calculator, but inside, in the right lighting environment, you can see it's actually extremely transparent, casting only barely the lightest of green over the scientists' faces, and this is how the MIT one worked. They sort of did a lot with layers here, but this new one from Korea is different because it's the first one, if I can find it in the description, yes, if you really want to look at the nanotechnology there. It's the first one that utilizes crystalline silicone, which is the most common and efficient photovoltaic material. And they also have a unique modularization strategy that also tackles key challenges in scaling up the transparent solar technology for real-world applications, such as in this one, you can see some of the lines and connectors between the panels that would hook them up. But in the new one that was made in Korea, you don't actually see that. I'm going to go ahead and scroll down here. And it says the UNIST solar cells feature an all back-to-back ABC design with all electrical components located on the rear side of the cell to preserve a glass-like appearance, which I think is very, very cool. And in terms of efficiency, these hit 15.8%, which is on the lower end of normal silicon solar panel efficiencies. And I think this is very cool. I don't know if I'm really going to be happy like leaving my phone outside all day to just cook, because that can obviously damage the phone, but it's a neat option, and it might be if we did something like, say, make all of our phones and all of our windows and all of our glass like this, which would be quite an engineering feat, that would generate a absolutely absurd amount of clean energy for the planet, so I'm here for it.
82% of our impressions of people are based on two traits: warmth and competence. It's not how attractive you are, it's not how tall you are, it's not how rich you are, it's not how successful you are. It's literally how fast can you signal, I'm a friend, trust, and you can rely on me, competence. From a body language perspective, the faster you can signal those two things, the moment you hop on screen, the moment you get on a video, the moment you enter a room, the more people like you and respect you.
I'm gonna break your bad habits in less than 2 minutes. So there is one sentence that you can say to yourself that will help you break your bad habits. And that sentence essentially allows us to bypass some of the mechanisms in our minds that allow us to keep doing things that we know aren't good for us and we don't really want to be doing them. So one of the reasons we do things that aren't good for us is because we tell ourselves, oh, it's just this one time. It's just today. Just today I'm going to do this. And so that kind of tricks us into thinking like, okay, I can stop this anytime I want. And we just have too much personalization with the things we do. We don't have enough distance, and we don't have enough of that perception of time in which we could actually understand how harmful this habit is to us. So if you are engaging in something you know you want to stop and you know in the long term it's not good for you, what I want you to do is next time you're engaging in something like this, I want you to think in your mind, I want you to use your name. So in my case, my name is Olesia. So I can say something like, Olesia is overeating a plate of cookies for the rest of her life. So I want you to take whatever bad habit you're doing and I want you to add for the rest of your life to it. Imagine that you do this bad habit for all of your days. And I want you to use your name because we know that once we use the third person, we're able to engage in a more logical way of thinking versus a more emotional way of thinking. So just use the sentence in your mind whenever you're engaging in something that you don't want to be engaging with in the long term. And don't judge yourself. Don't be mean to yourself. Just narrate it like one of those documentaries. Narrate what you're doing for yourself in your mind and realize that all of these one days end up to a whole life. They add up to a whole life.
Meet my lab assistant, Holly. Poly's last name is styrene. Polystyrene was first created by an apothecary named Edwin Simon in Berlin. He took this resin from this oriental sweet gum tree, and after he took the resin, he distilled it. He called the distilled product styrol. Then after he let the styrol sit, it turned to this gummy jelly material, which he then called styrol oxide because he thought it underwent oxidation, but actually it underwent polymerization and he made polystyrene. Well, let's fast forward to the 1900s, and we started to make polystyrene out of petroleum. The Dow Chemical Company came up with an industrial process, and they patented the name styrofoam with putting air or gas into the polystyrene and making these great insulating products like a cup. We don't recycle these in most parts of our country. The main reason is that most of the styrofoam, if you notice, is air. So the cost of transporting mostly air is just not reasonable in terms of recycling costs.
Today I'm going to teach you a skill that you should have been taught when you were a child, but probably weren't: how to be an adult, specifically a happy adult. Every adult must fulfill 6 life tasks in order to be fulfilled. I'm gonna run through them, and as I do, think about which one you might want to put a little bit more focus into. 1, identity. This is about knowing who you are, your values, your dreams, your inner being. 2, intimacy. This is about establishing reciprocal relationships where you give and receive freely. That could be with a partner or a spouse, with friends, or with a community. 3, career consolidation. This is the pursuit of work that brings you purpose and meaning, that helps you to grow and gives you a chance to use your gifts. 4, generativity. This is about giving back and helping other people. 5, keeper of meaning. This is about preserving all of the things that our collective human intelligence has built and preserving them for the next generation. And 6, integrity. This is about looking back on your life and feeling a sense of acceptance and of pride in yourself and the choices that you made. Filling these life tasks is always a work in progress. So which one do you want to devote a little bit of energy to right now?
When I was starting to open my eyes to seeing the deception that's in the New Age and just the deception that's in the world in general, I started to notice that nobody likes the name of Jesus. Like, if you're not a follower of Jesus, people get triggered by that name.